Hello. In this video, I am going to run through every single colorless card in Edge of Eternities that is colorless and find it a home in Commander. And the first colorless card is Anti-Causal Vestige, which I think would be good in basically any Eldrazi deck, but especially good with the Ladok Void Gorger. So Anti-Causal Vestige is 6 mana for a creature Eldrazi 7/5. When this creature leaves the battlefield to draw a card, then you may put a permanent card with mana value less than or equal to the number of lands you control from your hand into play tapped. And it has Ward for 4. Zul'Adak Void Gorger is 5 and a colorless for a legendary creature Eldrazi 7/4. It has colorless spells you cast from your hand with mana value 7 or greater have Cascade. So the Anti-Causal Vestige does not trigger the commander's mana value 7 or greater, but it is a very good thing to cascade into at 6 mana. And because when it leaves, as the game progresses, you just get to put bigger and bigger things into play behind it. So that's the first colorless card. Next up is Tezzeret Cruel Captain. For 3 mana, it's a legendary planeswalker, Tezzeret. Whenever an artifact you control enters, you put a loyalty counter on it, and it enters with 4 loyalty. For 0, you can untap target artifact or creature. If it's an artifact creature, put a ++ counter on it. -3, search your library for an artifact card with mana value 1 or less, reveal it, put into your hand. Or -7, you get an emblem with, at the beginning of combat on your turn, put 3 +1/+1 counters on target artifact you control. If it's not a creature, it becomes a 0/0 robot artifact creature. So I think it's very playable in Urza Lord High Artificer decks. For 2 and a blue, it's a 1/4 legendary creature, Human Artificer. When it enters, create a 0/0 construct. That is a colorless construct artifact feature token with this creature gets +1 for your artifact you control. You can tap an untapped artifact to add blue, and then 5, search your library, then shuffle your library, then you may exile a top card. Until end of turn, you may play that card without paying its mana cost. So if you have an artifact deck that just has a ton of things entering, Tezzeret's going to get up to a high loyalty very quickly. And Tezzeret can also continue to search up artifacts with mana value 1 or less. So I'm thinking Mox Amber. Really, Mox Amber's not that good because all artifacts can tap for blue, but Mox Amber, Soul Ring. I'm trying to think of what it's called. The artifact from Kaladesh that's 1 mana, you can pay 7, sacrifice to destroy target permanent. You can just tutor up a lot of options with mana value 1 or less. And then the emblem is not great because it just gives you like 1/3/3 a turn. But being able to tutor something as soon as it comes into play and just basically get any little artifact. Plus, you can pay 0 to untap an artifact, which could just add blue. So at a bare minimum, it's like a 3 mana rock that gets a lot of loyalty. So I think it's playable. So All Faith's Scroll is 3 mana for an artifact. Tap, add 1 mana of any color. And you can pay 7, tap, sack it to draw X cards, where X is the number of differently named lands you control. The Wandering Minstrel is a green and a blue for a creature, legend, human bard. It's a 1/3 with lands you control enter tapped. It has, at the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control 5 or more towns, create a 2/2 elemental creature token that's all colors. And then for 3 white, blue, black, red, and a green, other creatures you control get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of towns you control. So if you're playing a 5-color town deck, A, you need mana fixing, and it can add 1 mana of any color. And the scroll can be sacrificed to draw a ton of cards. Because if you're playing a town deck, there are no basic towns. You're playing every single town you have access to. You're always going to have like 5, 7. If you're playing 5 colors, 10. All of your lands are going to have different names. Especially if you build it in a way that you play like 1 of each basic and 1 of each snow basic. So you have as many different lands as possible. Because if you're playing a town deck, you're playing like differently named lands all around. So you can draw like equals the number of lands you control. So that's just good. Bygone Colossus is 9 mana for a 9/9. It's an artifact creature robot giant with warp 3. Galta Primal Hungler is 10, a green and a green for a 12/12 legendary creature, Elder Dinosaur. This spell costs X less to cast, where X is the total power of creatures you control and has trample. So my thought here is, if you warp the Bygone Colossus into play, so for 3 mana you put it into play for 1 turn, your Galta immediately goes down to just costing 3 mana. So for 1 turn, you can basically pay 6, 3 for the warp and 3 for the Galta, and yeet Galta into play. Is that good? Maybe not. But it's just a fun little thing you can do to essentially pay 3 And it's like casting 3 dark rituals, because you paid 1 colorless for 3, 1 colorless for reduce 3, 1 color reduce 3. And so you basically get to cause Culta for 3 or 6. So that's just something fun. Chrome Companion is 2 colorless for a 2/1 artifact creature dog. Whenever this creature becomes tapped, you gain a life. 2 tap, put target card from a graveyard on the bottom of its owner's library. River Song is 1, a blue and a red for a legendary creature, human Time Lord Rogue. It's a 2/2 with meat in reverse. You draw cards from the bottom of your library rather than the top. And spoilers, whenever an opponent scries, surveils, or searches their library, put a ++ encounter on it, then it deals damage to that player equal to its power. So it's very obvious what I want to do here. You cast an extra turn spell, Chrome Companion puts them on the bottom, next turn, River Song draws that card. You play your extra turn spell, it goes to your graveyard, Chrome Companion puts it on the bottom, River Song draws it. So you have infinite turns. But Chrome Companion just can repeatedly get you to draw the card that's in your graveyard. So it's very good with River Song. I really, especially if you're building a combo deck, it just adds to the list of cards you can put on the bottom. So that's fun. Dauntless Scrapbot is 3 colorless for an artifact creature robot. It's a 3/1 with when this creature enters, exile each opponent's graveyard, create a land or token. Dr. Eggman is 2, a blue, a black, and a red legendary creature human scientist. It's a flying 3/6. At the beginning of your end step, draw a card. Then each opponent faces a villainous choice. That player discards a card, or you may put a construct, robot, or vehicle card from your hand onto the battlefield. So it's just another robot you can play in this build, and it gives you access to being able to exile graveyards, especially if they die and you reanimate it, or you bounce it, or sack it as an artifact, or anything else. Giving yourself access to another robot that has some mana ramp. You're not playing green, and a land or token allows you to ramp. It just has some utility in a Dr. Eggman deck, and so I like it there. Dawnsire Sunstar Dreadnought is 5 colorless for legendary artifact spacecraft station. It has 10 or more charge counters, and every you attack, it deals 100 damage up to 1 target creature or planeswalker, and flying at 20. Mendicant Core Guidelight is a white and a blue for an X3, where X is its power, equals the number of artifacts you control. Draw your engines, max speed. You can copy artifact spells by paying 1. So originally, when I put this together, I thought that you could copy Dawnsire, but it's obviously a legend and would die. But in theory, if you're copying artifact tokens and neither of the two have haste, you could just station right away. And because the Dawnsire, once it gets to 10 charge, doesn't say whenever Dawnsire attacks, it's just whenever you attack, you could get access to the Dawnsire very easily. And also, if you're playing the Mendicant Core, we all know that its power gets high very quickly, and it could probably crew the Dawnsire up to 10 by itself. Because you're playing all the cheap artifacts, and so you could probably crew the little guy by itself. The Dominion Bracelet is 2 colorless for a legendary artifact equipment. A cryptic creature gets +1/+1 and has 15 mana. Exile it. You control target opponent during their next turn. This ability costs X less to activate, where X is this creature's power. Activate only as a sorcery. Has equip 1. Yargle and Multani, not too much to read here. It's 3, a black, and a green for a legendary creature, Frog, Spirit, Elemental. It's an 18/6. If you pay 2 and then equip 1 and put this on Yargle, Yargle becomes a 19/7 and has 0 exile the Dominion Bracelet. You gain control of target opponent during the next turn. This ability costs X less to activate. So it's 3 mana, gain control of an opponent. Which, I know I'm saying a lot, because it's just obvious. It's just good here, so play it. Aha. The Endstone is 7 mana for a legendary artifact. Whenever you play a land or cast a spell, draw a card. At the beginning of your end step, your life total becomes half of your starting life total, rounded up. Terval, Arbiter of Virtue, is 2, a black, a green, and a blue for a legendary creature, Spirit Dragon. It's a 6/6 with flying and lifelink. Spells you cast have Delve, and whenever you cast a spell, you lose life equal to its mana value. So, Taval can cast things from our graveyard and go crazy, playing things, drawing cards, getting lands, all kinds of fun stuff. And we can drain our life pretty easily, but the Endstone puts us back up to 20 at the end of every turn, of your turn. So it can kind of mitigate that Taval effect. The Eternity Elevator is 5 colorless for a legendary artifact spacecraft with tap add colorless, colorless, colorless. And once it had 20 or more charge counters, it adds X mana of any one color where X is the number of charge counters on it. Zaxtra the Exemplary is 1 a black, a green, and a blue for a legendary creature, Nightmare Hydra. It's a 2/3 with death test. It taps to add 2 mana of any color. And every time you cast a spell with X in its mana cost, you create a 0/0 green Hydra creature token, then put X +1/+1 counters on it. If you're typically making a 5/5, those tokens are 5/5s that can crew the Eternity Elevator right away because they don't have haste. And so you can get it up to 20 and then literally tap it for 20 to put into X for your crazy big Hydras. It's also important to note that if you have effects that when they put counters on something doubles the number of counters they put on instead, which you're probably playing if you're playing a +1/+1 counter Hydra deck, you can double the amount of the charge counters you're putting on the Eternity Elevator. So if you tap for 5 and you put 10 counters, you can even do that once it's over 20. So you can get to the point where you have 30, 40, 50, 60, and in theory, it doubles, The Eternity Elevator has 20 counters, and you make a 20/20. You tap it, now it's at 40, the next turn you can make a 40/40, and the next turn you can make an 80/80, and the next turn you can make a 160/160. And honestly, you're retapping some of those too. So the Eternity Elevator feels like it would be fun to play as Extra the Exemplary deck. Extinguisher Battleship is 8 mana for an artifact, spacecraft. When this spacecraft enters, destroy target non-creature permanent. Then the spacecraft deals 4 damage to each creature. And if it has 5 or more charge counters, it has flying and trample and becomes 10/10. Duretti Rocketeer Engineer is 4 and a red for a legendary creature, Goblin Artificer. Its power is equal to the greatest mana value among artifacts you control. And whenever Duretti enters or attacks, choose target artifact card in your graveyard. You may sacrifice an artifact. If you do, return the chosen card to the battlefield. So, the Extinguisher Battleship enters and can destroy a non-creature permanent, artifact, planeswalker, enchantment, sagas or enchantments with saga lands. And then you can deal 4 damage to everything. The 4 damage does not kill Duretti. Then you can sacrifice it and put it back into play and do that effect again. It's also important to note that its power is equal to the mana value of an artifacts you control. So Duretti would be an 8/5 here, and you can immediately tap it to station it. So you just have a 10/10 flying trample that's a blocker. So that seems pretty good. And I've seen people do this in Modern, and it's really good in Modern. But Commander's a little bit different, but it's a good card. Extinguisher Battleship is a good card, especially with Duretti and bouncing things. Nutrient Block is 1 mana for an artifact, food, indestructible. 2 tap, sack the artifact to gain 3 life. Whenever this artifact is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, draw a card. Camellia, the Seed Miser, is 2 a black and a green for a legendary creature, Squirrel Warlock. It's a 3/3 with Menace. Other squirrels you control have Menace. And whenever you sacrifice 1 or more foods, create a 1/1 green squirrel creature token. And it has 2 forage. Create +++ to counter each other squirrel you control. To forage, exile 2 cards in your graveyard, or sacrifice a food. So if you just want another food to put in the deck, then Nutrient Block. That's just my thought is that. Nutrient Block's like a fun little card if you need something that's indestructible for 1 mana, but it's a food and it would be playable in a food deck. And squirrels randomly like food and forage, so. Pinnacle Kill Ship is 7 mana for an artifact spacecraft. When this spacecraft enters, it deals 10 damage to up to 1 target creature, and a 7 charge counter since a flying 7/7. Bellow Bard of the Brambles is 1 a red and a green for legendary creature, Raccoon Bard 3/3. During your turn, each non-equipment artifact and non-Ura enchantment you control with mana value 4 or greater is a 4/4 elemental creature in addition to its other types, and has indestructible haste. Whenever this creature does combat damage to a player, draw a card. So the Pinnacle Kill Ship, honestly, is just not a good card. But if you need somewhere to play it on the deck that animates it and makes it indestructible and draws the cards. Survey Mechan is 4 mana for an artifact creature robot. It's a 1/3 with flying and hexproof. And you can pay 10 to sack it. It deals 3 damage to any target. Target player draws 3 and gains 3. And the ability costs X less to activate or X of the differently named lands you control. Indominus Rex Alpha is 1 a blue or black, green for a legendary creature, Dinosaur Mutant. It's a 6/6. When it enters, discard any number of creature cards. It enters with a flying counter on it. If a card was discarded with flying, the same is true for First Strike, Double Strike, Death Touch, Hexproof, Haste, Indestructible, Lifelink, Menace, Reach, Trample, and Vigilance. And when it enters, you draw a card for each counter on it. So, Hexproof is one of the strongest things that you can put on a commander. That's why commanders with really high ward, like the Elfin Wolf one, are really good. Hexproof is super strong, and this is just a way to get hexproof on our commander and a way to get flying on our commander. That's really what I thought. And then honestly, if you don't discard it, you can just deal 3 damage to something, kill a little cheap commander, kill a little Llanowar elf or something that's being problematic. I hate there. An oof. Target player, you draws 3 and you gain 3. If you're discarding cards and your commander enters, I know you draw cards for counters, and this is 2, so really you discard the 1 and draw 2. It has a lot of perks. So I like it here, especially if you're looking for more hexproof, which I don't have it in Dominance Rex deck, but if I was building one, I'd assume you'd want as much hexproof as possible. Just seems really good. Hexproof, indestructible, double strike. Trample's good. Vigilance is always great. But yeah, flying's good too. Thaumaturn Torpedo. Maybe I said that right. Is 1 mana for an artifact, 6 colorless, tap, sack the artifact, destroy target non-land permanent. This ability costs 2 less to activate if you attack spacecraft. Infinite Guideline Station is a Warburg, so a white, a blue, a black, a red, and a green for legendary artifact spacecraft. When it enters, create a taps 2/2 colorless robot artifact creature token for each multicolored permanent you control. And once it gets up to 12 counters, it's charge counters. It's a flying 7/15. When it attacks, draw a card for each multicolored permanent you control. So if you're building a spacecraft deck and want some removal that's on theme, play the Torpedo. If you're not, I mean, you can go get it with the Tezzeret we talked about earlier. But overall, it's not great. It's not great. You're not playing this outside of like a spacecraft deck, unless your deck cares about 1-mana artifacts, but those already exist. So, Thrumming Hive Pool is 6 mana for an artifact with affinity for slivers. Slivers you control have double strike and haste, and at the beginning of your upkeep, create 2 1/1 colorless sliver creature tokens. Sliver Hive Lord is white, a blue, a black, a red, and a green for a legendary creature Sliver. It's a 5/5 with Sliver creatures you control have indestructible. Now, obviously, you can play Thrumming Pool with just about any other Sliver 5-color cards, and you can make an argument that is better with like the Sliver Hive Queen, I think is what it's called, but it makes tokens, so the affinity will be cheaper. But I like the idea of having indestructible, double striking slivers that can get buffed by anything. That's what I like. So I like the idea of having indestructible in the command zone and always having access to indestructible. So that's just my preference, but it's a good card. Virulent Silencer is 3 colorless for an artifact creature robot assassin 2/3. When a non-token artifact creature you control deals combat damage to a player, that player gets 2 poison counters. Atraxa Praetor's Voice is a greeny white, a blue, and a black for a 4/4 legendary creature, Angel Horror. It's a flying vigilance, death touch lifelink. At the beginning of your end step, proliferate. So if you're building an infect deck, and this can give 2 poison counters every single time a non-token artifact creature you control deals combat damage to a player, if you have a heavy artifact deck, you could play it. Now, my build with Atraxa is not heavy artifact creatures, I mean. But if yours is, yeah. But my thought is, when I first read the card, I was like, oh, this is so good with mites. That mites artifact. I mean, tokens. Mites are tokens. So this is playable. It also counts as self, in theory. You know, it's self. It deals 2 and gives the opponent 2 poison, which is fun. But I don't know if it's great, because it doesn't give 1 to everyone. But the Silencer could be playable with Atraxa. Worm Wall Sweeper. Sorry, for 2 colorless, it's an artifact spacecraft and enters Surveil 2. Golbez Crystal Collector is a blue and a black legendary creature human wizard. It's a 1/4 with whenever an artifact you control enters Surveil 1. At the beginning of your end step, if you control 4 or more artifacts, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Then if you control 8 or more artifacts, each opponent loses life equal to that card's power. The Worm Wall Sweeper is not a good card. You should not play it. It's the worst colorless card. It's probably worse than the one that charged for 7. This is just a bad card. But I just remembered the Golbez has Surveil 1, and this has Surveil 2. So if building like a Surveil deck, could be fun. Put in a Surveil build. There are Surveil commanders that you could put this in, but I don't know. Command Bridge is a land that enters tapped. Whenever this line enters, sacrifice it unless you tap an untapped permanent you control. Tap, add 1 mana of any color. Rogak, Son of Roga, is 0 mana for a legendary creature, Kobold Warrior. It's a 0/1 with first strike, menace, trample, and partner. I think you can see what I'm trying to do here. But if you play the Son of Rogok first, and then play the Command Bridge, you can tap Rogok to keep it in play. Now, the question that I would ask myself, that's fun and good on turn 1, but is that good at any other part of the game? If you're playing an equipment build, you could tap the equipments, because the equipments still equip and still give the buffs and the bonuses. Your auras and your Uros, Sagas, Planeswalkers, none of those things care about being tapped. So there's plenty of things you can tap. I just think it's really cute that you could do this on turn 1. Because, in theory, Command Bridge is written like this, so you can't play it on turn 1. The ones that enter and make you pay 1. You can't do that on the first turn. But with Rogok, you can. So that's why I thought it was cute here. Secluded Starforge is a land that taps for colorless. And you can pay 2 tap X untapped artifacts you control. Target creature gets +X/+0. And you can pay 5 to make it 2/2. Ultima, Origin of Oblivion, is 5 mana for a legendary creature god. It's a 4/4 with flying. Whenever Ultima attacks, put a blight counter on target land. For as long as that land has a blight counter on it, it loses all land types and abilities and has tap add colorless. Whenever you tap a land for colorless, add an additional colorless. So if you're playing a lot of waste, you can just switch this out for a Secluded Starforge. It doesn't enter tapped. It can make you tokens. And if your deck has artifacts, it can buff something. But at a bare minimum, it just is better than a waste. And if you hold the mana up, you can tap it to make it 2/2. Those are all of the colorless cards from Edge of Eternities, and a home for all of them in Commander. My astute viewers are going to go, well, what about the Shocklands? That's not interesting for me to go over, but those are all the colorless cards. If you are putting any of these into your deck, please let me know in the comments. If you made it 21, almost 22 minutes into the video, and you watched this entire time, please leave a like. And I hope you have a good rest of your day, and may your top decks be ever in your favor. Thank you.